I just listened to the One album by Emerson, Lake, and Powell, and here are my thoughts. So I just did an Emerson, Lake, and Palmer video. I uploaded it yesterday, and I gotta hand it to you guys, man. If I had to guess which of my videos would become my most popular video, reaching now, 21,000 views, getting around 120 followers from it, I would not have guessed that that would be Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Thought it would have been the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or something. A lot of prog fans on here, apparently. In any case, at the end of the last video, I let you know that Bad Company is the next band that I'm doing. I got a few suggestions to do it forever ago. They've been on my list. I want to go through them. But in the comments of the last video, some of you have shared with me that in the 80s, so between Love Beach and Black Moon, that Emerson, Lake, and Palmer wanted to get back together, but they couldn't. Palmer had obligations with the band Asia that he was with at the time. So Emerson and Lake got Cozy Powell, which is a bit of a legendary drummer. I love a lot of his work. They got him and made an album with him. Now, I specifically know of Cozy Powell from Rainbow and Black Sabbath. He performed on Rainbow Rising, which means he performed on one of the most legendary rock albums of all time. Also did a few albums with Black Sabbath in the Tony Martin era. So, no, he did Eternal Idol and Tear. I believe he was on Headless Cross. I'd have to double check. But I'm not here to talk about that. I am here to talk about the Emerson, Lake, and Powell album. It's self-titled, so that's what it's called. So this album was released in 1986, and as you'd expect, it's very proggy. The main instrument here driving all the songs is 80s style synthesizer. So a lot of this album sounded like it would work really well as like an 80s sci-fi action soundtrack. I thought this album was all right. If you had watched my previous video where I'd ranked the Emerson, Lake, and Palmer albums, this I had figured would fit in between the Works Volume 1 and the Works Volume 2. It is a pretty solid album. Nothing really on it was as good as Lake's portion of the Works Volume 1, but I found most of it to be more solid than the Works Volume 2. My favorite songs on here are The Miracle and Touch and Go. It seems like Touch and Go was the lead single, the lead song from this one. I don't know if The Miracle got much attention, but I really liked it. I thought it was great. So those are definitely like the top tier songs from this album. And then right under that, you have most of the rest of the songs on the album that, that's what contributes it to being a solid album, is that most of the songs are enjoyable in some way. At the higher end of that tier, so these are songs that were somewhat notable to me, we would have The Score and Lay Down Your Guns. Of all the songs on this album, I think that Step Aside was the weakest one, and it's the only one that when it had passed I was like, I'd kind of rather not listen to that again. And that may be mainly due to the main sound of the song. It had a vibe of kind of like lounge jazz to me, and that's just not a style of music that I typically go for or typically appeals to me. But that song being the only one that I thought of as being a notably weaker song, that means you get, Learning to Fly and Love Blind as pretty strong songs. This album ends with an arrangement of Mars, the Bringer of War. And I know on my last video I said I didn't know that much classical music, and that's true, but of the little that I do know Gustav Holst's The Planet Symphony. I really like that symphony. Different tracks are representative of different planets, so this is Mars, the Bringer of War. When it goes to the symphony itself, I'm more of a Jupiter man myself. But Mars is a really cool song. It's very violent and very doomy, representative of the god of war that it supposedly is there to represent. I actually remember hearing somewhere, and it might have been in an interview with the members of Black Sabbath, that they got the riff for the song Black Sabbath from this song, Mars, the Bringer of War. Now, this specific arrangement of Mars, the Bringer of War on this ELP album is very synth-driven, and it's good. It's quite likable. I knew the song pretty well because I had listened to that symphony a lot of times, but it was a pretty cool way to close out the album. Side note, I do like that the acronym ELP still works even though we switched out a member. The band claims that that was coincidental. This album does also come with 2 bonus tracks. So the first one, The Locomotion, is a cover of a Southern style like line dancing song that was written in the 60s. This is very synth driven, so it's, you know, they're very much putting their own flavor on it like they did with Hoedown. And then the last bonus track, Vacant Possession, it's an original composition. I thought it was pretty good. Fell in the same tier along with, you know, Love Blind and Learning to Fly for this album. So I think you'd probably love it more if you're a very big fan of ELP already and a very big fan of this style of music. But for those of us who are pretty new to progressive rock and still kind of finding what we like and what we don't like about it, which is kind of where I'm at, this album, or this song, sorry, Vacant Possession, didn't totally jump out. Though I guess that is somewhat true about the album as well. But like I said, The Miracle and then Touch and Go. I saved these songs. I will be revisiting them for sure. Feels nice to have this much room to breathe to talk about one specific album rather than, you know, fighting to cover decades worth of discographies within one 10-minute video. But yeah, they only had the one album, so that's it. Okay, now I'm going to start going through Bad Company. But yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching.